Good morning and welcome to Morning Scoop for Sunday, December 5th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Rose Bowl is in 27 days, the game against Michigan in 356 days. The Rose Bowl is now part of the show intro, even though it's not officially official just yet. The Selection Sunday show will air at noon on ESPN on Sunday. They will find out officially what the college football playoff field is going to be at that point. You'll find out officially what the New Year's Six Bowls will be at that point. But spoiler alert, Ohio State is very, 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 very likely going to the Rose Bowl to play Utah. The reason for that? Michigan won the Big Ten championship last night, 42-3 over Iowa. What a time to be alive. My guest today is Buckeye Scoop's Kevin Noon. He and I and Tony Gerderman did a live watch along for kind of the second half of that Big Ten championship game last night. Answered a lot of questions. And there's still a lot to talk about. So Kevin, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
So that Michigan win means Ohio State is almost guaranteed to go to the Rose Bowl. And it will not be official until the graphic pops up on ESPN shortly after noon today. But they are very, very, very likely to face Pac-12 champion Utah. So Utah has a couple common games with a common opponent from Ohio State. You may remember the Oregon game did not go fantastic for the Buckeyes. And then Utah just absolutely ground the Ducks into dust twice in the last couple weeks. So do you have any early thoughts on that matchup and how those teams may match up in that Rose Bowl game, Kevin?
Yeah, Ohio State better bring it. Utah's going to be a motivated team. Utah's going to go out there and they're going to want to be there. And they're not going to view this as a worthless exhibition or anything like that. This is their chance to prove that they belong on the national stage, their chance to take down one of the blue bloods. I know using the word blue and Ohio State together doesn't necessarily ring well with a lot of people, but they're going to be motivated. I mean, they can run the ball. They've got a mobile quarterback who can throw the ball around. Hard-nosed defense. It's going to be a chore. It's a team, and as we kind of talked about on Buckeye Weekly Live last night, I could see Ohio State coming out playing a flawless game and winning the game by 20. I could see Ohio State coming out and just going through the motions and losing by 20. And everything in between is still on the table. So, this is going to be a real game. I think it's going to be a real test to see where the hearts and minds of this team lie. And, if the team is motivated, I think that Ohio State certainly is a couple scores better. But, coming off of the Michigan performance, getting called out, let's see where they stand.
Yeah, and whether or not Ohio State ends up wanting to be there, they're going to be there. And my personal advice to you, if you have not been to the Rose Bowl, you too should want to be there. It is by far my favorite bowl game to attend. It is absolutely worth the trip. It is a classic American event, a classic American venue. There is absolutely nothing like it in college football. If you've thought, well, maybe I'll save it for the Cotton Bowl, maybe I'll save it for the Fiesta Bowl. No. You have sat in NFL stadiums before. You have not been to the Rose Bowl. Go to the Rose Bowl. If you have, in the words of Ferris Bueller, if you have the means, I highly recommend it. It was a busy championship Saturday. Ohio State had championship Saturday off for the first time since 2016. In the nightcap, if you did not stay up, Pitt completely crushed Wake Forest. That was a very close game for about a quarter and a half. And then Wake Forest just stopped scoring, and Sam Hartman started throwing interceptions, and Pitt did not stop scoring. So Pitt is your ACC champion. The first game of the day of the Power 5 games was Oklahoma State losing to Baylor by literally that much. It was about 3 inches, one of the most exciting finishes you've ever seen. And Cincinnati is very, very likely going to the college football playoff. They beat Houston at home on Saturday, so that'll be a team that Ohio State fans will have the option to root for. I'm not sure if they'll be able to do it, but I'm not sure if they'll have many more attractive options in the playoff field than that. One of the reasons for that is Michigan is probably one of those, almost certainly going to be one of those other teams in the college football playoff field. They won 42-3. Kevin, we watched that game on Saturday night. and it was like it felt like about 5 minutes in, it was like, oh, okay, I see how this game's going to go, and then it kind of went exactly like you thought it was going to go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw Iowa's best shot early on in the game. Trick plays. They had a touchdown dead to rights, and the receiver fell on his butt, and they had to settle for a field goal. And fast forward the next 59 minutes, and that was that. Michigan passing in the final 3 minutes of the game. It wasn't necessarily that Michigan put up huge numbers. It was just like a pennyweight and a middleweight fighting, and it kind of went as you expected. The pennyweight just couldn't match up, and we sat there and we saw Spencer Petras. He got benched. They bring in the other guy. He didn't fare any better. They couldn't run the ball. Michigan played a pretty clean game. There were a couple of interceptions, but they had a couple trick plays. They did some things that they do there, but again, it wasn't a case of where Hassan Haskins rushed for a bajillion yards and had 5 touchdowns. They didn't have to come out and do that. I mean, it's just I don't know anybody in the Big Ten West that would have come out and necessarily had a great game. The Big Ten West was so bad, but oh boy, let me tell you, Iowa looked terrible. I don't know what they did all week in preparations. I'm sure 17-time Coach of the Year Kirk Ferentz did something to fill the time, but being prepared for this game didn't look like it was one of them because it was a gross mismatch.
Yeah, Michigan had a long touchdown pass by running back Donovan Edwards, a long touchdown run by Blake Corum, and that was kind of it. And then they somehow won 42-3. It was quite a spectacle. So Michigan, Big Ten champions for the first time since 2004, college football playoff entrance for the first time ever. So that'll be something we'll find out for sure who they're playing and where they're playing a little later on today. But very, very, very likely, unless the college football playoff committee wants to set up a rematch, they're going to be playing either Georgia or Alabama, and that is because Alabama absolutely smoked Georgia in the SEC championship game on Saturday. Georgia came out, had a 10-0 lead, and it was like, oh, wow, okay, so they're just going to do this. And then Alabama ran off a 35-7 run, and it was like, oh, in fact, they're not going to do this. Georgia back in exactly the way Georgia fans did not want Georgia to be back. So, coming away from that game, Kevin, you walked in thinking, well, certainly Georgia is the best team, the most complete team in the country. Everyone is flawed in their own way. Certainly Georgia is the most complete team in the country. And then you walked out of that game going, maybe Georgia just played a bad schedule and everyone's kind of flawed this year.
Yeah, and people talking about wanting to put Alabama one or whatever, the same Alabama team that needed 4 overtimes against Auburn and lost to Texas A&M. I mean, myself included, I thought that Georgia was just going to come out and outclass Alabama, and then 1980 happened, and Nick Saban owning all of his former assistants happened, and Stimpy Bennett, the quarterback for UGA, not really being that great. I don't know what has to happen for them to roll JT Daniels out there, but Stetson Bennett just had a bad game. Jameson Williams does Jameson Williams things. Bryce Young does Bryce Young things, and now here we sit. But it seemed to be such a foregone conclusion that this was UGA's year to win it, and it was going to take a team playing a perfect game to maybe challenge them. Alabama didn't play a perfect game. Alabama looked really good in stretches, long stretches, but it didn't play a perfect game, and UGA looked pretty bad. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a wide open little 4-team tournament that we're going to have there. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see what's going to happen. About the only thing I'm pretty sure of is that we're not going to get the repeat of what we saw in the SEC championship game in the semifinals. They will make sure to separate the two teams to try and prevent that from happening, as I'm sure ESPN is licking its chops of potentially getting that as a championship game if that's in the cards.
Yeah, and that's kind of the question, because you could look at Michigan's 42-3 win and say, aha, they have to be number one. Or you could look at Alabama beating the former number one team and say, aha, they have to be number one. but it feels pretty likely to me that if it's Alabama 1, it's going to be Michigan 2, and then they'll put Georgia 3, and Georgia and Michigan will play, and then Alabama will play number 4 Cincinnati.
I think that's
But
safe. Yeah.
yeah, but if not, if they decide to put Michigan 1, then you put Alabama 2, and then you bump Cincinnati up to 3, and you put Georgia 4. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels pretty inevitable that it's going to be Alabama versus Cincinnati and Georgia versus Michigan, however they decide to parse those teams out.
Yeah, I don't, I think, to be determined on where they play and things of that nature, but it's not even going to change jersey colors for the semifinal games. It's just going to be you're in Dallas, you're at the Orange Bowl. This is what's going to happen. And then we know that the winners are going to meet at Lucas Oil and play there. But yeah, I don't think that. I think it's pretty safe that these four teams can go and start putting cut ups together of their opponents because it's pretty well locked in.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. 4 teams. This feels like the first time that there isn't a clear, cut and dried favorite going into that Final Four. All 4 teams have pretty clear flaws that have been demonstrated at some point in the last couple weeks, couple months. Who do you think wins it? Who has the horses to get through not just winning 1 game, but winning 2 games?
I, until proven otherwise, I'm going to take the team that's done it before, and that's going to have to be Alabama. As much as that pains me and sickens me, and I don't think Alabama is all that good. And if John Mechie had an ACL injury, they're that much thinner once again at the position. But UGA going to UGA. It's been a long time since Michigan won its half championship, and Cincinnati is in completely uncharted territory. So you almost have to give the nod to the team that knows how to do it. Alabama's been there; they know how to go through that whole process. So Alabama, I guess, maybe.
When in doubt, people go broke betting against Nick Saban. That is generally not a thing that works out well for you. So I think I would just sort of go, well, I have picked against Nick Saban in the past and felt like a tremendous fool for doing it. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'll make a different mistake. I will pick Alabama. Yeah, I think that's it. But this is a wild, as wide open a college football playoff field as I think we've seen. Generally, you have you feel like, okay, this team certainly is better than the 1 seed is definitely better than the 4 seed. They're LSU and Oklahoma a couple of years ago, it was like, okay, LSU has a first round bye because Oklahoma can't stop anyone. It doesn't feel like that this year, and that's, I think, partly because the 1 and 2 seeds also kind of have some flaws that maybe they haven't had in previous years. So should be a fun Final Four, and should be a fun Rose Bowl as well. Again, we will find all of this out for official Sunday at noon on ESPN. And then Kevin and Tony and I will be back about 2:30 this afternoon. Once all the stuff's out, we've had a chance to get articles written and all that sort of stuff. We'll be back about 2:30 p.m. on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop, to do a kind of live instant reaction Buckeye Weekly episode, going through everything everything that has shaken out, sharing some more thoughts now that we know kind of who's going where, who's playing whom, and all of that fun stuff. So we will be back on youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop a little later on today to do all of that. Hope you guys can join us. One way to make sure you don't miss out on all of that fun is to subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting that little bell. Again, youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Hit that bell, then you get notified every time we post a new video, every time we go live with a show like that. We'll probably be doing a bunch of those in the coming weeks as we get ready to head out to California for the Rose Bowl. That should be just a fantastic trip. Once again, if you have the opportunity, you should consider doing it. It is a really unique and awesome venue. You should take the opportunity to go and experience it once in your life. And once you've done it once, I don't need to tell you, you'll want to go back again. So that'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later on.